Hey there, Allan. Oh, I see that you couldn't just wait for part 2 of that creepypasta jump from before. Tell you what, I'll read it for you right away. I deliver mail to cryptids. I made a mistake on my second delivery job. Written by 02321. Narrated by Gamma Akutabi. A few weeks passed after my horrible first day of work, being a mailman delivering mail to supernatural creatures. I was certain I would be fired after how horribly I did on my first day. I ignored my job description and gotten my partner injured. I expected to have serious ramifications for my actions. However, nothing happened. Since that day, I was assigned to the sorting room. For 8 hours in the day, I went through thousands of color envelopes, placing the right colors in the right place. I wasn't sure what each color meant aside from the red one needed to be sent out first. I was not allowed to touch any black envelopes I saw. Instead, I would get my supervisor to take them. I only saw 3 of them while working in the sorting room so far. I worked with some strange looking creatures. One was a spider creature that barely had any human features. He could sort almost as fast as lightning because of his arms. He only nodded towards me when I said hello to him every day. I was a human in a workplace full of monsters. They weren't treating me as badly as I expected. I got a silent treatment. It was a bit unnerving whenever my supervisor looked at me as if I was a 3-course meal and he hadn't eaten for days. My supervisor was human-shaped wrapped in old bandages, similar to a mummy. His bandages were just sloppy wrap, trying to hide whatever was underneath instead of being wrapped for preservation purposes. White light shone through where his eyes should be. His mouth was exposed, showing a mouthful of needle teeth. He drew a little whenever I spoke to him regarding work. He was nice enough to not address that reaction. Overall, it wasn't a bad job. I was starting to think I would be in the sorting room forever. One day I got a message saying I needed to do a delivery job and be at a location at 9 the next night. I dreaded going. I also wanted to see if I could get any information about my coworker, Rufus, who lost a leg because of my incompetence. I hadn't been able to talk to any of my coworkers in the sorting room about it. The next night, I found myself in a room looking pretty much the same as the one I entered for my first job. It looked like an empty office with a pretty receptionist sitting at a fold-out table reading a magazine. She looked like the girl who didn't greet me the last time. She didn't even look at me when I walked over to her table. I pulled out a few packs of gum and placed it on the table for her. That got her attention. I got a smile out of her. That was all. She stashed away her present, going back to her reading. Knock, knock. My heart leaping to my throat. Rufus was the type of person to announce his arrival at the same time as knocking. I wanted to see him. But now that it was happening, I dreaded it. The past few weeks I wanted to know if he was alright. I wasn't emotionally ready to face someone who had gotten so hurt because of my mistake. Rufus was a tank of a man with dog ears and a cute curved tail I hated because it did not match his tough guy image. His kind personality did not match his image either. He came out of a door from the other side of the room. Ignoring my clear distressed emotional state, he scooped me up into a big hug. I'm convinced if I wasn't wearing that magic mailman uniform that protected me from damage, I would have been crushed. His smiling face finally put me at ease after weeks of stress. His pants legs were rolled up. The leg he had lost had been replaced with another looking very similar to his original dog-like leg. The replacement had black fur instead of this sandy brown. He had wrappings around his knee. By how slowly he walked compared to before, it seemed like Rufus wasn't fully healed up just yet. I'm really glad you're doing alright. I've been worried I will get fired because of what happened, I admitted to him. Fire? What? No! You're doing just fine, Rufus said with a wide smile that made me feel only slightly better. Your leg got torn off on my first day, I said, still not being able to get over that fact. Well, yes, that isn't great, he admitted, sounding almost guilty for a moment. Don't worry about it. This sort of thing happens. I'm fine. Unlike for you humans, legs can easily be replaced. I just wanted to drop by and introduce you to your partner for this job. If you get along, you'll be partners for a while. I don't know what I expected partner-wise. It literally could be anything. And I mean anything. I saw a pile of mushrooms walking around this sorting room once. I was pleasantly surprised by a man looking to be around my age and very similar to Rufus. His personality was as friendly as my previous partner.
Hello.
My new partner came into the room the same door Rufus arrived from. He walked across to me, taking my hand to shake it in the same greeting my old partner had. He spouted off a garble of syllables not meant for humans to pronounce as his name. He and Rufus must be related.
Max.
The receptionist finally spoke.
Alright, my human name is Max.
He was at least a foot taller than me, but smaller than Rufus. His dog ears on top of his head were fairly large compared to his head. I saw paws poking out from his rolled-down pant legs. His hand had a soft, sandy fur covering them. Claws for fingernails. When he shook my hand, I felt small pads on his fingertips, making his hands a paw-hand hybrid. And yes, he did have a curved tail. It suited him far more better than Rufus, so I didn't hate it. Max is my son. I suggested him for your partner. I think that you will get along, Rufus explained. Max looked like he could barely contain his excitement. Him and his father were much different from all the other creatures that only saw me as a meal. I think this will work out just fine.
Your job is to deliver this to honors letters,
the receptionist told us, placing a small cardboard box on the table to take. Max scooped the box up, ready to get started.
It's going to be easy. I hear honors letters hangs out in the park on the human side of things. Not dangerous at all.
Max explained to me. That made me wonder something that had been rattling inside my brain for a while. As far as I could tell, mail was delivered in teams of 2. More if a job was extra dangerous. If it was a simple job, why waste resources and send an extra person? With the last job, if Rufus went alone, I was certain he would have done just fine. This sounded like an easy job today. So why even have me go along? How come we have teams of 2 for everything? I asked.
Oh, simple really. Even if we think it's an easy job, we really can't predict anything that goes on the field. Teams of 2 were far more likely to get the job done and have one worker return. You know that joke about you don't need to be faster than the thing chasing you, only faster than the person with you? Yeah.
Max explained as he trailed off, looking beyond me, clearly remembering something unpleasant in his past.
Anyway, let's get going.
Max recovered quickly, going back to his pleasant self. We both said our goodbyes to Rufus and left the meeting room. The room we had met inside were called Zero Rooms. They could be controlled when to appear and where the entrances and exits went. We went through the door I arrived in, but it no longer was connected to the building I had entered through. We walked out into a damp and dark public bathroom. The stall was the door we came out of. When the door closed, it returned to being a normal stall door. I used my phone to get a look around. It wasn't clean, but not as dirty as other public park bathrooms I've seen. The door to the outside was locked. I fear we will be trapped inside until the morning and a park worker came by to let us out. Max made sure that didn't happen. With one swift kick, the door not only burst out from the hinges, but slammed against a tree, the metal completely twisted. I'm glad Max was friendly. I never wanted to accept him if a low-effort kick could do that much damage.
I was never on trying to find a good spot to wait. I don't know what other leather smells like, but supernatural creatures are different than humans. I can tell the difference.
Max explained when we got out of the bathroom. He placed the box we should be delivering on his head between his ears and started to walk with large, playful steps. I was utterly mortified that he started to sing the song I had taught Rufus on the last job. He was singing it out of the even if the lyrics were correct. He paused, trying to think of the next verse, and I jumped in with a question trying to distract him from singing in a dark and empty park. How come Slithers has the title of honor? Is he super important or something? Max looked a little confused over my question, as if I should have known the answer already.
Honor is just what we use instead of Mr. or Miss, because some creatures don't have a gender, or they have a gender that hasn't been named. It's a sign of respect. We wouldn't have a job if these creatures weren't sending mail or receiving it. Mind you, some just use whatever title they like. I've come across females that go by Mr. because they like the sound of it. Same for males and the ones without genders. Didn't you read all of this in the handbook?
The last part made me stop dead in my tracks. What handbook? No one has ever told me about a handbook. I only received a blank swipe card to get inside the Zero Rooms and a pair of uniforms. You would think something this important would have been brought up before now. I never got one, I admitted.
What? You did a job without a handbook on Liv? Humans are impressive.
Max looked so excited I didn't have the heart to tell him I didn't actually do anything on my first job, but mess it up. I really needed to look into getting a handbook once we get back.
I'll send a message seeing if we could get you one. I will lend you mine, but it's not in your language, so you can't read it. I don't think any one of us does have one in a human language, so maybe that's why you don't have one yet. The last time we accepted humans was around 500 years ago. The handbook gets outdated fast, so we can give you one of those.
Even if he did, I doubted I could read English from 500 years ago. And he said a human language. It could be written in anything. I would just go without. Max was friendly enough and he answered any questions I had so far. It wasn't a big deal until we got a more dangerous job. We walked through the park, Max leading the way. I saw a few people walking home from work, but none looked our way. I wonder if they could even see us, or if the uniform has some sort of magic that made us invincible to humans. After all, I really couldn't explain away Max having a very real set of dog ears and tail. Max stopped at a bench under a street light. Sniffing the air a few times, he sat down. I sat next to him, looking around, expecting to see anything besides, well, an empty park at night. Do we know when Honor's Litters is going to show up? I asked after a few minutes of listening to Max home next to me.
Nope.
I looked over at him confused. Are we just going to sit there all night waiting? Wait, so we are really just going to sit here and wait? Isn't there a way to contact them saying the package is ready? I asked, and Max looked like he wasn't sure he wanted to answer my question.
Well, no. We don't really have a way to call others anymore. Some creatures that have embraced human culture own those things called, phones? We call them that way. It's sort of a long answer why creatures like us can call each other with our own way.
We might be here all night. I'm alright listening, I said, and Max brightened up at my answer.
There is what you humans will call a spell to call each other. It had to be broken and no longer used because we accepted humans to deliver messages a while ago. It started out fine working with them, but soon they started to hate us for our nature. Some of us do kill and eat humans. The humans had to wash and do nothing when they saw it while working. No one is really angry at your mistake on your first day. We honestly expected it out of you. Anyway, the spell was a written one. You will write the creature's name, then what action you want the spell to take. They figure out how to break down the spell and create a different one. It was used to summon and bind any creature they knew the name of. Those humans only used it for a few days, but they had enough time to slaughter thousands of us. I can understand why it happened, but not all of the ones who are born to the night harm your race. They don't even interact with anyone. They're completely harmless. However, they will kill as well. My father and I have names starting with a letter near the end of our alphabet in our language, so that's why we lived through it. Ooh, what a scary time.
It was a strange feeling hearing Max tell me about humans trying Max killing his species. I really didn't know what this feeling was. The image of that little girl from my first job came to mind. She has suffered and died. For what? How many humans have suffered because of those supernatural creatures? How many have been killed for no reason aside from something wanting to have some fun? Just how many people suffer never knowing what happened to a person they dearly love? Max was friendly, so was Rufus. They could have died because of what they were. They didn't deserve it, but I feel like some creatures that had been slaughtered back then should have been killed. It was such a gray area. I couldn't decide on a good answer to my feelings. I didn't want to admit to Max I thought some of them would be better off dead, when to him, they were just doing nothing wrong. Those creatures were just eating. It didn't matter who got hurt. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. It was just a message from my father asking if he could borrow money next week. Max looked over at my phone very interested. Any kind of conversation about work got derailed after that. Max didn't know much about humans. He rarely interacted with them, so what he didn't know was just bits and pieces he could just get secondhand. I will be getting a huge bill for using so much data that night. It was well worth it. For the rest of the night, I showed him everything I could think of on my phone. He loved videos of dogs and puppies, but lost his mind over cats. I don't think there was another person who loved cats as much as Max did the moment he saw one. The night passed without seeing any other supernatural creature. When the sky started to lighten, we went back to the bathroom and entered the stall where the 0-room door appeared. Dropping the package back off at the receptionist, we were off for the day. The next 2 nights went about the same. We got paid for sitting on the bench looking at cute cat videos. I bought snacks for us, seeing if Max would like human food. He loved it. It only took 3 nights of me hanging out with him to forget the distressing truth I learned when I took this job. I was working with creatures of the night, and those creatures killed humans. A little bit past 11 that night, that truth came crashing down around me. We were eating snacks, looking at more videos when I heard screams and cries for help coming down from the walkway fairly close to us. I bolted to my feet, then froze remembering my last outing. I could not save this woman crying out for help. It went against my job. I could only deliver mail and not interfere in supernatural affairs. I gritted my teeth listening to the cries for a few seconds when Max spoke up.
Shouldn't you be doing something?
He asked, a mouthful of jerky. I can save a human from a creature. It goes against my job. I admitted as my chest started to hurt.
Yes, that's right, but what's going on is a human-on-human thing. I can smell it. You can deal with it if it is 2 humans fighting.
Max explained. He didn't need to tell me twice. I was so panicked and worried I did everything wrong. Max had my phone. I didn't even think of grabbing it from him before running off. In a few seconds of running towards the sound of the attack, I saw a woman being assaulted by a man. He was pulling at her clothing, trying to tear at it. She swatted at him, screaming for help. Judging by how she was moving, it looked like she had either sprained it or twisted her ankle. I didn't stop to think. I just grabbed him, yanking him off of her, hoping she would take that chance to run. The problem was I didn't have any sort of plan beyond that. I also had never been in a fight before. In a fury, the man turned on me. To my horror, he pulled a knife from his pocket and swung it at me. I raised my arm to block it, expecting some pain. The knife snapped when it hit my sleeve. It was nice to know that the uniform not only protected me from supernatural threats, but also human weapons. Tossing the knife aside, he wasted no time. I was forced to the ground. Any punches to my chest also were blocked from the uniform. I tried getting some swings in, but I wasn't very strong. My attacks missed. It was simply useless in a fight. Unable to stop him, the man grabbed a fist-sized rock and slammed it against my head a few times. The weak point of my uniform is it didn't protect what wasn't covered. Pain flooded my head as everything went dark. I don't know how long I was out for. Maybe only a few minutes. I came to, head pounding, and struggled to sit up. My attacker had turned his attention to the girl again, who failed to run away. He wrapped his arms around her waist, trying to drag her deeper into the trees along the trail. When I saw that, my mind went into a blank fury. I never thought I was a violent person, or even an angry one. I always thought I was a bit of a wimp. Something just snapped. I refused to let another person get hurt because I couldn't do a damn thing about it. My head was pounding, but my body didn't react to the pain. I just got up and threw myself at the man, prying him off the girl once more. I don't know where the strength came from. I got him to the ground, sat on his chest, and just let loose. I faintly remember hearing crying behind me as I punched his face with everything my body held. My knuckles got turned and ruined from slamming into his teeth. My head ached and blood from a cut on my forehead poured over one eye, stinging it, forcing it closed. My arms felt like they were on fire, but I didn't let myself stop. When I felt like I couldn't hit him anymore, I pressed my forearm over his neck and pressed down. I was positive I would have killed him if I didn't feel a soft touch on my shoulder snapping me from a gray state. I felt something take me from under my arms and lift me off onto the side. What had stopped me from my attempted murder was a creature I assumed was Slithers. It was made of inky black wiggling tubes that shone like oil. 2 orbs of flaming white light hovered where his face should be. Seeing the monster snapped me back to a reasonable state of mind. I sat on the ground, panting, completely worn to the bone. Without warning, my stomach hitched and I puked up all the snacks I had eaten that night. Thankfully, off to the side and not on my uniform. I heard Max arrive. He sat next to the shocked girl I had tried hard to save. He tried to calm her down. She just kept crying. I didn't blame her. The entire thing was a shock to any normal person. She didn't need another seeing a squirming creature. Max left her to walk to the monster that had stopped my assault and handed it the box. He then took out a sheet of paper to get the monster to sign it. He just pressed the bottom, leaving a black spot as a signature. Then, to my horror, Slithers took the beaten and blood man into his squirming tubes of black. I heard sickening crunching sound and I knew that man was dead. I thought I had used up everything I had. When Slithers turned and started to move towards the girl, my body found the strength to stand up, putting myself between them. There were a few tense seconds of a showdown between us before Max broke it up.
It's fine. You won't hurt her. Honor Slithers is just scavenger. They only eat the dead or the near dead. I think they hung out here because the man you attacked was killing humans in this park, and Honor Slithers just cleaned up the mess.
Max explained. I felt my stomach turn again, and I had to turn away to drive heave. I felt sick down to my bones. If I didn't attack that man so badly, he would be alive. I was the reason why a man was dead. If I had just had him arrested, we might learn how many girls he had killed. And Slithers ate them. And now the murder. There will be no evidence of the crimes. Families will never know what happened to those poor girls, all because I couldn't control myself. I was just as bad, if not worse than the monsters I have been judging. Through tears and dry heaving, I watched as Slithers opened the box mail delivered to him. Inside was an old My Little Pony toy, one from the original show. It looked to be in a good shape, the fake gems glittering dully in the dim light. None of us was expecting the toy, and none of us was expecting Slithers to go over to the poor traumatized girl, handing it to her. We did not have time to question the action. I heard voices and saw a flashing beam.
Cops, book it!
Max yelled, and all 3 of us at once. He took off running, then had to double back to grab me because I was not as fast as he was. Slithers frantically looked around and made a mad dash off into the trees. We left the poor girl with the strangest story and a cute toy. I expected once again to be written up for my actions. I only got an eyebrow from our receptionist, then got sent on my way. Because it was a human-on-human interaction, she didn't care nor offer me any medical treatment. I received notice for another delivery job 2 days from then in the morning. I got myself cleaned up the best I could, and feared going into the doctor to get my head checked out. I didn't want them to press me to report what had happened to the police because it was clear I had been in a fight. I could just hope I didn't have a concussion. Our next delivery job sounded simple. It was a large sword wrapped in a Christmas paper. It was so large I couldn't lift it. Max easily took it, carrying it as if it weighed nothing. We sat in front of a convenience store waiting for a creature to pick up the package. Max could tell I was feeling down, but wasn't well versed in humans enough to figure out how to cheer me up. It was a time of the year when the night was chilly but the days got hot. Sitting out front, the sun started to rise, so did the temperature. I thought I would feel hotter wearing a jacket as part of my uniform, but wasn't too uncomfortable in the sun. I still bought us both a popsicle from the store. A chocolate one for myself, and an orange one for Max. I sat, turning over the last job over in my head. I hated the idea of victims never being found because of my actions. But that will only be the case if slithers actually ate them. I learned that the ones receiving packages could request a certain set of workers for the job. It helped keep certain races away from others if the mail company wasn't aware of a bias. I felt as if slithers saw what was happening in that park and couldn't stop it. They ordered something when they heard a human was working for the mail delivery. They may have hoped I saw the man attacking a girl and put a stop to it. That was just hopeful thinking on my part, aside from slithers giving the girl the pony toy. I had no proof there was any kind of kindness in the pile of squirming shapes. Slithers was a supernatural creature, and it was in its nature to eat humans. Putting an end to a serial killer in the park would remove the food source. It was not in their best interest to have it stop. Max, if I wasn't there, would you have saved her? I asked him, finally breaking out of my thoughts.
No.
He answered honestly. I didn't blame him. She was not of his species, not his job, not his world, not his problem. I had finished my popsicle and saw writing on the stick. It said I won a free one, and I didn't think they still ran that sort of promotion. Without a second thought, I started to turn and offer it to Max. I really didn't have any proof to support my theory that there was some good monsters out there. Yes, some did kill people without a second thought. Monsters lurk in the darkness of the night waiting. But there might be some kind creatures too. At the same time, Max turns toward me, popsicle stick in hand. He had also won a free treat. At the same time, we both had offered to each other, causing us to laugh when we realized what we had done. And that's today's story outline. This is the second part of the story, and I love it. I love the fact that Rufus still showed up with a new leg, a very adorable leg. Oh, and then his son, how many kids does he have? How many marriages? Oh man, I just love this series. It's fun narrating it. It always puts a smile on my face. I can't wait to do the other parts of it in the future. But I cannot just keep doing the series like weekly, like here you go, here you go, here you go. I gotta also show some other authors some love too, you know? There's plenty of love to share, and you guys seem to like this story, cryptid stories. If that's your cup of tea, I'll try to look for some more. Just let me know in the comments. And leave a like too while you're at it. And if I finally earn your subscription, go ahead and subscribe. What are you waiting for? And like always, I see y'all on the wasteland.